Hi everyone, Ryer here with another video for you. Today, I want to talk about my experience with the Granblue Fantasy vs. Open Beta Test number 2. It happened this past weekend, November 9th through the 12th, and allowed play in online matchmaking, lobby play, and the Granblue's Legends Fall Guys mode. Before we get started, just take a moment to please drop a follow on the channel and let me know your thoughts. It really does help me out, and it only takes a second of your time. So, what were my thoughts on the beta? Overall, I thought this beta was excellent, and I want to talk about some of the things that I really liked, and maybe a couple of things that I disliked in no particular order. Before we start talking about this, a little bit of my background. I've been playing fighting games for over 20 plus years. I played Granblue Fantasy Versus infrequently before Rising, largely due to how hard it was to play online, and my main game right now is Under Night In-Birth EXE Late CLR. I'm excited for Under Night 2, and I'm especially excited for Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising after playing this beta. So with that out of the way, here is a cringe VTuber Uniplayer's perspective on the game. I played Avatar Belial for a majority of the beta, and he felt really nice to play. So point number 1, 66L. Oh boy, nice. Here we go, right? I want to get this one out of the way first. This is kind of the looming boogeyman of the beta, isn't it? 66L, almost universally, is a dashing light attack that your character can do that is plus on block, leads to a full combo reward on hit, and is extremely fast in neutral. I saw many people likening this to Drive Rush from Street Fighter 6, and to be honest, I can see why. It's a very good neutral tool that leads to a lot of reward and has very little risk unless called out by an opponent's attack. You get a big reward from connecting with this, and sometimes if the opponent doesn't have meter or reversal on deck, you're just allowed to loop it on them, and they'll have to risk losing 60+% of their life if they want to try to mash back. So, is this a problem? It's hard to say. I think at the surface, the answer is no. It is a very strong tool in the early game, and much like Soul Bad Guy's Far Slash and Guilty Gear Strive, this is something that players aren't really used to in this game yet. After all, we are in the open beta, and nobody has had a chance to extensively test against this or get used to looking for it. But with all that said, even by the end of the beta, I was playing more and more people who were much more cognizant of it as a threat, and creating better neutral game plans for themselves. An early poke beats 66L. You know, if you stick out a normal and I'm 6XLing, I'm going to run into it. But if I dash and stop short with something like a 5H, I beat your now whiffing early poke. But that then creates the situation that if they didn't poke in the first place and I called it out with an early stop and a 5H, they can come back and whiff punish me, and now we're back to playing fighting games again. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of play around this, and while it is a strong tool that's easy to abuse, especially for people who aren't ready to challenge it or who don't have a reversal, the only time I felt truly oppressed by this move was when I was playing against a Zoe who had a dragon behind her as well as the 66L, and that made it really difficult to contest. At the end of the day, I think it boiled down to just fighting games, and people are going to find counterplay to this tool. I like how the tool felt to use and play against, so I hope they don't tweak it too much. I'm not advocating for any change at this moment myself, but I could see this getting a little more recovery, or maybe getting a little bit less of a reward on hits. I could see that making it through to the final version of the game, and it's still feeling pretty good. Number 2, Brave Points and Raging Strike. Okay, this was something that I absolutely loved about this beta, and that was how the BP mechanic worked. BP stands for Brave Points. So for those of you who didn't get to play and use it much, you start the round with 3 BP. You can spend 1 BP to either do a Raging Strike on offense or a guard cancel, get off me style move on defense. Raging Strike is a fairly fast attack that is unblockable and allows for a full combo if you spend 25 meter for a follow-up. If you try to guard this, you will have your guard crushed and you will lose 1 BP. Once your guard is crushed, you can decide, upon being guard crushed, to spend a second BP, 1 plus the 1 that you lost, to deflect the follow-up attack and get the opponent off of you. It creates a new way to open opponents up, especially for characters who don't have a lot of mix-up opportunities, and creates a resource balance that you have to actively manage. That's what I really liked about this. Worth noting, you also lose BP if you get hit by Skybound Art or Super Skybound Art, 1 and 2 respectively. So what does it mean to lose BP? Is this a bad thing? Well, if you've only lost 1 BP, no big deal. there's absolutely no change, no effect. After you lose your second BP, you start taking 20% more damage from all sources. If you lose that third BP, you're taking 50% more damage. For those of you who haven't seen damage scaling in a fighting game or haven't seen this on Twitter or in action, 50% damage is a lot more damage. When combos can do upwards of 50 or 60% of your life bar, plus 50% is almost your entire health bar. That Reflect, after being Guard Crush, is looking a lot less appealing now that it costs you 2 BP and leads to a 20% damage boost from your opponent, huh? You can also use Raging Strike mid-combo to extend and relaunch your opponents for a fairly chunky amount of damage in the middle of the combo. Of course, this will cost your own BP, but you get more damage. If you decide to spend your BP on your combo to get more damage, and it doesn't give you the round, you may have now just lowered your defense to allow your opponent to come back. It creates an awesome balance of how much to spend and how much to save. I think this creates a unique resource balance that the first game didn't really have. All the first game really had was, do you spend your meter or not? Then it makes routing and offense so much more fun in Granblue Fantasy versus Rising. You know, you ask the question, do you want to save your meter and use Raging Strike instead of metered special moves to get more damage? Is that going to cause your BP to be too low? Is your opponent's BP too low, such that you can try to all in with your own and try to win the round off of this touch? Even allows you to catch the opponent sleeping by going into the guard break in a string. But if they're ready for it, you can eat a big punish. I look forward to seeing how other players use their BP and what becomes the norm and standard for how to spend these in a real match. Number 3, metered specials and ultimate skills. I don't have too much to say about this mechanic that's terribly unique, but I am very happy that it was included. I always said in the first game I wanted more ways to spend meter, and I certainly got those in this game. For the record, you can spend 50 meter in this game to do an ultimate skill, which is an enhanced version of one of your special moves. Every special move has an ultimate version of it, and ultimate versions of skills provide unique properties. Sometimes they give you extra invulnerability, sometimes they give you extra range, sometimes they give you extra frame advantage, and almost universally, they give a hard knockdown on hit for the moves that knock down. So a thing I really liked here was that this was your ticket to hard knockdowns now. You actually have to use your meter to get a hard knockdown rather than just spend an EX move and burn a cooldown. Looping safe jumps still exist in this game, kind of like they did in the first game, but they're a lot more expensive now, and there's going to be less payoff on that follow-up hit since you had to spend 50 meter along the way to get the setup in the first place. In addition to this, certain moves now give characters neutral applications that they didn't previously have, and that's a big win overall for this mechanic in the game in general. I think player creativity and expression, not just in combo routes, but in neutral, will flourish a lot more in this version of the game than in previous versions. I am so excited for the full release of Granblue Fantasy versus Rising. These mechanics that I described breathe so much new life into the game, and at least to me, I still confidently can say that this feels like Granblue Fantasy versus. Yes, there's a lot more ways to skip neutral, and it's a lot more active and a lot more anime than it might have been before. It's not entirely old man footsies until you explode, but at its core, I can still call this Granblue to me. On top of all that, I haven't even mentioned this yet, on top of all that, the netcode felt great. I don't think I had a single noticeably poor connection the entire weekend that I played the beta. Being able to react and do something like Avatar Belial Super Skybound art in response to an opponent throwing a fireball online on Granblue is amazing and really cemented why having a seamless online experience is important for a fighting game. So what are your thoughts? What did you think about the beta? Are you excited to pick up Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising if you didn't play the first one? What has you worried in the beta? Is 6XL too strong? Let me know in the comments below. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RyerVT and see me playing the game once it drops in December. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Ryer, your tournament organizer VTuber. You all be good to one another, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.